Basics of Citing APA. In the previous 2 videos in this series, you learned why it's important to cite your sources and about the basics of formatting citations for your reference page. This video will focus on creating the in-text components of your citations, which appear within the narrative of your paper. You may recall that the in-text citation is where you pause in your writing to acknowledge the ideas, research, or direct quotes from the authors that you have just referred to in your work. Why are these in-text citations needed when you've already included a reference page? The in-text citation points your readers to the complete citation in your reference page by using the author's last name, and sometimes gives specific information such as page number, chapter, or section title where they can find the particular idea or quote you've just included in your work. You need to include the in-text citations in addition to the reference page because you want your readers to know which ideas are yours and which ideas come from one of your sources so they can better understand your work and the expertise that supports your arguments. Now let's see how to create the in-text citations in APA style by looking at different examples. The most common type of in-text citation has the author's name in the narrative of the writing and the year of publication in parentheses. Notice the year of publication is directly after the author's name. If you use a specific piece of information or quote in your narrative, also include the page number of the original source at the end of your sentence and place it within parentheses. The publication for the end of the sentence is placed after the closing parentheses. If you don't mention the author in your narrative, include the author's last name in parentheses, comma, and then the year of publication, as you see in the example. Again, if you mention a specific piece of information or quote, also include the page number preceded by a comma after the year of publication. Questions often arise at this point. What if my source doesn't have an author listed? Or what if there's more than one author? And what if my source doesn't have page numbers? We'll look at the author issue first. Remember that the in-text citation points your reader to the corresponding entry in your reference list. So if your source doesn't have an author, you will use the first words of a reference page entry, which is the title, and then the years separated by a comma. Use your best judgment on how much of the title is needed to make it clear to your reader which entry you are referencing. Notice in the example that the article title is placed within quotation marks. Article, chapter, and web page titles go in quotation marks, and periodical, book, and report titles are italicized. If the source you reference has 2 authors and you are using the names in a signal phrase, include both last names and separate with the word "and." If you don't mention the author's name in your narrative, separate with an ampersand in the parentheses as shown in the example. For a work by 3 to 5 authors, list all the authors in the signal phrase or in parentheses the first time you cite the source. Use the word "and" in between the author's names within the text, and use the ampersand in parentheses. In subsequent citations, only use the first author's last name followed by et al. In the signal phrase or in parentheses. And what about page numbers? APA ordinarily requires page numbers for quotations and recommends them for summaries and paraphrases from long sources. When an electronic source lacks stable page numbers, include whatever information is available to help your reader locate the particular passage you are citing. For example, if the source has numbered paragraphs, use the paragraph number preceded by the abbreviation PARA period. If the source contains headings, cite the appropriate heading in parentheses. You can also indicate the paragraph under the heading that you are referring to, even if the paragraphs are not numbered. Notice that in some electronic resources like web pages, people can use the find function in their browser to locate any passages you cite. This ends the 3rd tutorial in the series on APA. Remember, if you have questions on citing or formatting, you can ask your instructor, the MCC Student Success Center, or the friendly staff at MCC Library.